Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. Joy to you, friends. We've been discussing stanzas 42 to 44 in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And there's a lot to discuss on this one. One point, which I've raised before, but it's about time I confronted it head on, is this question of reincarnation. Many people wonder, well, do we really reincarnate? The answer to that in human terms is, how could we? I seem to have begun my consciousness when I was born. Many people in the world, many religions in the world, and many wise people who are Christians also believe that without reincarnation, nothing is explained. How would God create a blind child? How would God bring a little child into this world who couldn't even think clearly, who was autistic or mentally backward or idiotic? How could God have created so much suffering? How could he have created somebody lame? Or how would somebody die early and other people live a long life? It seems so unfair if you think that God did it just out of whimsy. And yet the answer to that, if you look at the non-reincarnational solution to everything, is that, well, who knows God's ways? They're inscrutable. Well, I jolly well think that they ought to be scrutable, at least to the point where our brains can handle it a little bit. And if a thing makes absolutely no sense, then I don't think it's enough to be told, I don't feel it satisfying to be told, well, I just have to have faith. I have to have faith in something that makes sense. If I were told that God was an old man with a green chin, I would say that's nonsense. When I was a young man, I went to church, and I found that I could not ask intelligent questions because they were always afraid. The priests and the people who tried to bring me into their line of thinking kept saying things that challenged me as if I was a doubter. Well, of course you should be a doubter. There are two kinds of doubt. One is constructive, the other is destructive. Destructive doubt is when a person is showing himself to be honorable, good, kind, loving, and you think in your mind, well, there must be something wrong. So you start looking for the errors in him. That's destructive. Go with what you see. But that's constructive doubt. If somebody says something that doesn't make sense, then you have to say that, show me how it makes sense before I can accept it. Because truth has to be at least reasonable. You can't find it through reason, but it must be reasonable. And so reincarnation actually, if you look around you at the faces of people in the streets as you pass them, it doesn't seem possible that so many different characteristics can have been developed just by genes coming together. It doesn't make sense. There's too much intricacy. There are too many attitudes that develop over a long period of time. You don't become just selfish overnight. You develop your selfishness. Some people are, you might say, drowning in selfishness. Others are a little bit selfish. Others are coming out of it. These gradations of virtue and vice are something that cannot be due just to your genes. They have to be something you've developed over a long period of time. My guru said that when the sperm and the ovum come together in order to create a child, in the astral world where souls reside, those souls that are ready to be reborn, the union of the sperm and the ovum sends out a flash of light, and those souls which are in tune with that particular vibration and are ready to be reborn, they will come at that moment. And there may even be more than one, and you'll get twins or triplets. But Master said that there will always be some attunement, some affiliation, some affinity. For example, a criminal may have a desire for peace in his home. A saint may have a strong desire for peace. And because of that, a saint may be born into the home of a criminal. But our qualities are so many, as the Gita puts it, that they are like the citizens of a whole nation. We have an infinite number of qualities. These don't come with genes. We carry them over from one life to another. And gradually, over many lives, you see people becoming more and more refined if they are making an effort to grow. Or the trouble with being human is that you have the intelligence also to err, and you can go downward also. But reincarnation, there are many cases nowadays of people who have actually remembered their past lives, and have remembered cases of people going to where they lived in their last life, and remembering the people in those lives, and even their old parents, wives, husbands, whatever it might be, somehow recognizing them. My guru's first Kriya Yoga disciple in America, Dr. M.W. Lewis, my guru Yogananda told him that your mother has been reborn. And he told her exactly the place where she was reborn. It was a couple of states away from where he was living in America. And he went to see her. And she was 3 years old. He said her mannerisms, her way of walking, everything was amazingly like his mother. And although she didn't remember him, she had a very great fondness for him, and he felt an instant fondness for her. These things carry on. When you see people whom you really like, instantly and instinctively, they are old friends of yours. There are some people whom you dislike, and they may have been old enemies. I remember there were a couple of disciples of Yogananda who began getting into fights with each other, not physical, but animosity. One was an old man, the other was young. But the younger one asked our guru, "Why do we have this?" And our guru said, "You were enemies before." So they worked it out in this life. But sometimes you find people, families of people who are always fighting. They were enemies before. But you see, enmity, hatred, attracts also, not only love. And so they were attracted to live at close quarters so they could fight it out at close quarters. We've got to understand that as we are, so we have been in the past, and we have grown gradually or descended gradually, depending on how we live. But it takes a great deal of effort even to overcome one fault. Somebody may feel great self-congratulation if he overcomes just one tendency, like, let us say, a tendency to drink too much, to overcome smoking. It may take a lifetime even to overcome one of these things. And whereas you don't think of everything normally as a fault, it's a fault if it keeps you from God. Selfishness keeps you from God. Anger, pettiness, meanness, jealousy, envy, all these things keep you from God. And we must work to overcome them. But don't use the excuse, "I'm only human." The truth is, you will not be fully human because you will not have realized your own full human destiny until you have overcome every one of these qualities that hold you back from knowing who you really are in God. Joy to you.